Hello and welcome to Inside Maine Tourism. My name is Kim Linloff and I'm joined today by Vaughn Stinson. Hi, Vaughn.
Great to be with you, Kim.
Today we have Dane Summers on.
Yes.
And are you on his board?
I am on his board. Just recently went to my first board meeting. Fascinating subject today that we're going to get into.
And the board is the Maine Lobster Promotional Council.
Correct.
So he's promoting the lobster product throughout the world.
He is, and you know, internationally, 30-plus countries now and growing. And what I think our viewers are going to be really stunned by is how limited their budget is to do all of this. And one of the things that I've always been fascinated with all of my travels, wherever you go, and if you see that lobster tank, it's a Maine lobster. I mean, that is one of our icons in Maine, and if it's got claws, everybody thinks it came from Maine. But of course, I think the quality of the Maine product is the best.
It's neat because a lot of the chain restaurants, they will put right on their menu, Maine lobster. They're very clear on marking that. And I went to a place actually in Florida not long ago, and I said, well, is this Maine lobster? And they said no, and I'm like, well, then I'm not getting it. Because you're right, it's not going to be as good. I mean, why waste your money? So.
Exactly, and I think that's the other thing, the quality of our product, and you can get it from Rangeley, Maine to Ellsworth, Maine, and everywhere in between in Maine, north or south, because it's right here in our backyard, if you will, the ocean. One of the great things coming online now that I've noticed on the cable network is the lobster group has worked with the Red Lobster chain, and they're featuring Maine fishermen, men and women, who are harvesting the Maine lobster.
In the commercials.
And that's great for us in the tourism industry, because it's another one of those things, you know, I've always wanted to go to Maine, and it's another reason why they want to come. And like I said, they get here, a lighthouse, a moose, and a lobster, they're happy folks.
Yeah, yeah, and it's, you know, and you can tell by the fairs and festivals throughout the state of Maine during the summer, there's the Lobster Festival, or any festival you go to, somebody's featuring lobster rolls or Maine lobster. It's definitely something that's of appeal.
Yeah, well, the Greater Waterville Festival is coming up here August 1st, and that's going to be one of the featured items here as well, because we know people love it, be it a lobster roll or be it the lobster, you know, right out of the ocean.
Yep, absolutely. Well, stick with us. We'll be right back to speak with Dane Summers on Inside Maine Tourism.
Some Maine to Boston commuters still don't know about the Amtrak Downeaster. Of course, it's easy and affordable, but once you step on, you'll discover something else. This. Quiet. Real quiet. And space. Lots of space. On the Downeaster, you get plenty of room to move, spread out, think with no interruptions. It's the best way to get to Boston. And with the price of gas, it's so obvious. I always take the train.
Welcome back to Inside Maine Tourism. Today, Vaughn and I are joined by Dane Summers. Dane is with the Maine Lobster Promotional Council, correct?
Correct.
Welcome, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Kim.
Tell us a little bit about what you do. What does the Promotional Council do?
Well, I get that question fairly often, and it's sort of an impossible dream.
Okay.
But we have fun doing it, and it's important work. We're kind of the marketing PR / sort of agency for representing the lobster industry. And what makes it interesting is that we're now selling lobster in 32 different countries around the world. So it's no longer even a national business or a regional business the way it was 20 years ago. It's a global business, which makes the challenges very formidable. And what we work on is in the U.S. especially, the brand Maine lobster is exceptionally well known. It's actually preferred over other seafood products that also are lobster in origin, and we're very proud of that because that reflects the work of the Promotional Council essentially over the last 20 years. I mean, you don't have anybody out there going, oh, I love Maine haddock, right? That's just greatest stuff I ever had. So we work very hard on keeping the name out there, keeping the positioning, and very carefully monitor the news about the lobster industry, how that reflects on the product and the people. So a lot of the PR we do, as I call it, sort of guerrilla marketing. And we do a lot of that. We have very small staff and limited budget, but I think we were effective in a number of different areas. And the other thing is that the lobster industry has tripled in landings volume in the last 15 years. So the product is really coming in very well now. We have a record level harvest, so that makes the pressure to move it out in the marketplace even greater.
Well, as big as that harvest was last year, and knowing what you folks do and how you do it, you must have multi-million-dollar marketing and promotional fund to work with.
What
do you do
not
all
so
this?
much.
How much do you have to do all this with, Dane?
Well, we do this with less than $400,000 a year.
Really? Wow.
Which really means that we have to be very, very selective about what we engage in. We obviously can't do consumer advertising or even large-scale national trade advertising. But we're also very proud of the work we do with the funds we have, because the funds come exclusively from the industry. We don't get any federal money or state money. It comes in lobster surcharges that are voluntary enacted through legislation from the lobster harvesters and lobster dealers. So it's very much a bootstrap type of operation from the industry.
Just so the viewers are clear on it, so what happens here, the people, the men and women who gather and harvest and bring the lobsters in are actually paying their own marketing way.
Exactly.
So they produce revenues for the state. It's, the Maine lobster is iconic. You go anywhere, and I pointed this out to Dane before, and I've traveled a lot in my professional career, but when you go somewhere, if it's got 2 claws, it's a Maine lobster. A lot of people, and I think that's great for us. I mean, as Dane's pointed out, I think the quality of the Maine lobster is really, really important to what we do on the tourism side of things, but I just think that is just phenomenal that the industry has done what it's done, and it's one of those iconic Maine. I mean, we hear that from people. I want to see a moose while I'm here, I want to go see a lighthouse, and I want to eat a Maine lobster.
Right.
Honestly and truly, it is. And the great thing about that is you can do that everywhere in Maine. I mean, Rangeley, Maine, or if you're up in Moosehead or whatever, you can get a great lobster meal wherever you go in this state because it's right in our backyard.
I think a lot of the whitewater rafting companies have the lobster bakes.
Yeah,
and,
they do. That's a good point. It really is.
We have a lot of those in my region. So how do you, if you are going about this in a guerrilla sort of way, where are you marketing? How are you doing it if you're in so many countries?
Well, one of the things that we've done over the last several years, which has been hugely successful for us, and it's kind of out of need, is that we can't afford television advertising, radio advertising, the traditional media, even print advertising is beyond the scope of our budget. So my background is such that I've built and developed internet-based companies before. So we've really focused on our internet and our website. And I don't know if this is unprecedented. I've never heard of it. Our website, lobsterfrommaine.com, has been the #1 website on Google searches for 3 years running.
That's
really?
phenomenal.
Wow.
I had no
#1
idea.
now I don't check it every day, but I do check it regularly. If you Google Maine lobster, our website comes up #1 and has been for 3 years. That's exclusive of paid listings. We've never paid for a listing or a position. And the way we do that is the old-fashioned way. We work hard at content. We're the world's largest database of lobster recipes. If anybody's interested in a unique way to prepare a wonderful lobster, we have that. We also have a lot of content. We've just recently, doing a commercial for us now, but this is very important to us. We've just recently developed a Chinese language section of our website because we've noticed more and more visitors from China. In mainland China, it's a little bit different. They're not English speaking. We've done business with places like Hong Kong for many years, where most business people have at least a business competency in English. But with mainland China, chefs, customers, restaurants, hotels, we've built a Chinese language section of our website, and we expect that to grow phenomenally.
You see the international market. I know it wasn't, just recently, last year or two, you folks did a trade mission, and I think you were working in the Vancouver area because that's kind of the gateway to Asia on the west coast out there. And that market, you're really working those pretty hard, I believe.
Well, we did. I'm surprised you noticed that. Not many people do. But it was 3 years ago, I went to Vancouver on a trade mission with the gubernatorial trade mission, and specifically to talk with Chinese expats in the seafood business, to educate myself and learn about who is doing what, how is lobster perceived, what are the channels of distribution, all the logistical elements. And then 2 years ago, in 2010, we developed in conjunction with food export folks, Food Export USA, a trade mission in conjunction with the opening of the Asian Seafood Exposition in Hong Kong. And we did chef's demos, we met with a lot of principal players in that area, and that really kind of kicked off the China market for Maine lobster.
And it looks to me, with that being obviously the market that it is between China and India and the size of their population and of course their orientation towards seafood and things out of the sea and feeding their people, that's got to be a great market for us. What about the lift capability and getting the product to them? We've got the ways of doing that?
It's right at the far edge of our logistical capabilities to ship live lobster. It's almost exactly halfway around the world. If you go a little bit further, you're on your way back.
Wow.
Right. So it's as far as we've been able to ship, and it adds expense and costs, and it's logistically very challenging.
Well, we're going to go to break here in just a minute, and I want to talk to you when we come back about the cost of lobster, because I see that as something that obviously is very important to the harvesters and the people involved, but it's also something that I think is very, very reasonable. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for more of Inside Maine Tourism.
Dane, before we went to break, Vaughn alluded to the price of lobster, and I've noticed as I travel to different places on vacation, lobster can be different prices all over the country. Can you speak to how price is determined? I mean, it's obviously lower here than in other parts, but we want it to be higher here. How does that work?
There's no simple answer, Kim. And one of the things, particularly when you're dealing with live lobster, it requires very special handling. There's not another food product in the country that involves a live animal. And we kind of, because we're used to it, we think, oh, well, we'll just ship live lobster to Chicago, like it's fresh potatoes or something. It's very, very different. The handling costs are expensive, and there are many different stages. So between here and, let's say, Chicago, there might be 4 different entities, companies that handle that product on its way there. So each one of them has costs to cover. They have a certain element of transportation, maybe it's packaging in addition. So between the time it comes off the dock here from a lobster boat till it gets on the plate at a diner's table in Chicago, may have gone through 4 or 5 different hands before it gets there because of the nature of the product. It's very, very difficult to transport and very expensive, and all those costs are built in.
And lobster is something that you have to fish for. You can't have a lobster farm somewhere in the middle of nowhere, right?
No, that's an interesting point. People have tried that.
Yeah.
2 things. It takes quite a while for a lobster to grow to market size. They're very slow growing.
Okay.
And while they're growing, they eat a lot.
Yeah.
So by the time you get a lobster to market size, farming it or trying to do it in some kind of aquaculture mode actually costs more than what we have for wild lobster.
I know we hear the word sustainability a lot, and I know your industry and the main promotion of lobster and what your association does to promote it out there is very, very concerned about that. You do a really good job. I think you're great stewards of the product. So I'm sure our viewers would like to know and be reassured there's plenty of lobsters out there.
There are plenty, and I'm glad you brought that up, Vaughn, because I certainly can't take credit for the stewardship of the resource, that the harvesters are actually the stewards of this resource. And we have one of the healthiest seafood resources, not just in the U.S., but in the world. And that has a lot to do with the strict conservation practices that the lobster harvesters follow. We have lots of different things, kind of like the Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. This one's too small, that one's too big. Yep. Oops, that one's just right. Yep. And only those just right ones go to market. So for every lobster that goes to market, now the numbers are staggering. We harvested that went out to market over 100 million pounds last year, and for every lobster that goes to market, there's 3 or 4 that go back in the ocean.
You said 100 million?
100 million pounds, which is probably around 75 or 80 million individual lobsters. And that's only the ones that are selected that meet the criteria for
some
going
of them
to
you have
market.
to put back, they're too small or too
Too
big.
small, or they're breeding females, or they're too big. So just the numbers are staggering. Just think about the cost of conservation for each of those harvesters on their boat to put back 3 lobsters for every one they bring to market.
I think that's really a great point too, because one of the great things I think about this industry in Maine is it's Mainers. It's got a long family tradition. It's fathers and sons and some daughters
Very
that
much,
are involved in
yeah.
all of it as well. Tell me a little bit about the average lobsterman. I mean, is there like 50 traps, 100 traps? I mean, how many of those baskets do they put out to catch them?
Well, there's a limit on that. They can fish up to 800 traps.
Oh my gosh.
In
Per
most
person?
of the per person.
800.
800. Which some of the guys, oh yeah, I used to fish 1,600, but then how do you do that? I don't know.
No,
It's a lot of pulling.
But a lot of pulling. But so 800 traps, and they'll pull those 2 or 3 times a week in a rotation. It is very much a family business. It's absolutely unique in the world of seafood in that the business here in Maine is actually regulated by law to be a small boat fishery.
Oh, okay.
Each boat gets 1 license, and each boat has to have 1 captain. Captain has to be on the boat. So there are no commercial
You can't have
fish.
10 boats.
You can't have 10 boats, right?
Gotcha.
You can't have really a kind of a commercial operation with a fleet of boats going out. So it's very much designed to preserve not just the resource in an environmental sense, but also the character and the flavor of our coastal communities up and down the coast. So it's unique in that way, which does add some to the cost. But we as Mainers, we tend to value things a little bit differently than some other folks around the world. And to us as Mainers, that's a value to preserve that character, the integrity of our coastal communities, and lobstering is certainly the backbone of that.
Well, the working waterfront's really, really important to the Maine tourism product. When we get visitors in and they come in from everywhere, not just the U.S., but I mean all over, going to a waterfront where they're stacking traps or they're bringing product off the boat or whatever, it's fascinating. I mean, and you know, it's one of those things that you probably ought to charge admission to it, but don't tell anybody I said that, because it really is. I mean, it's not very often that you get to see, you know, the harvest coming in, what it looks like, and even talk to the folks, which can be pretty colorful at times as well to get around a dock. So it really is fascinating from that aspect. The season is year-round for some people.
It is year-round. There are a small number of fishermen who fish through the winter months. Lobsters tend to move offshore and go into a semi-dormant state, so fewer catches and more cost. But the bulk of the season is basically July, August, September, and October. We catch about 70% of the total year's harvest in those 4 months.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that lobster is getting a worldwide appeal. Is your organization making any efforts to get lobster into other countries that aren't on that list?
To be honest, Maine lobster has such appeal that it's a marketer's dream, because we actually get calls from customers want to know how they can get it. So then we kind of coordinate and work with existing companies in the industry to kind of fit those two together. And that's, again, most of the lobster handled, obviously here in Maine, is by local companies, small companies that have been in business for many, many years. And it's kind of archaic in the view to some folks, but it's very much, even the distributors and larger dealers are very much family-owned businesses in many cases. So it's kind of supporting that American dream of work hard. You know, everybody in the family pitches in. There's nobody leaves at 5 o'clock. You know, they work until the job's done.
Right.
And that's part of what makes Maine special, I think.
Well, I think one of the things that's so great about this too, it truly is entrepreneurial from the get-go, from the very start. I mean, and that's one of the things, the tourism industry in Maine is like that. I think that's one of the other reasons why we're so excited about what you folks do as far as promoting this product and this Maine icon. So it really is fascinating to learn a little bit more about it and how well it works and how important it is to the Maine economy. 100 million, that is just a staggering number.
And that's about $330 million, which the economists tell us that you multiply that by 3 to get the economic impact on the state. So it's
You're right
over
at
$1 billion.
Yes, sir. Just fascinating.
Little mom and pop businesses contributing over $1 billion to the Maine economy.
To the Maine economy. That's huge. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for more of Inside Maine Tourism.
You've heard it all before. Come locate your business in our region. At Mid-Maine, we've got a different message. We say, come visit the Waterville region and let us show you a great place to live, work, and play. You'll find we offer a diversified economy, progressive business climate, and an outstanding lifestyle. But don't take our word for it. Let us show you what we offer. It's easy to arrange a visit. Just a quick stop at the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce website will get you started.
Vaughn, I think Dane was right. He does have like a marketer's dream working with the Maine lobster.
He does, and like I said, you know, and the visitor comes, and that's one of the things they got to have. They want a lobster roll, or they want a lobster. They want to see it, and he has a whole product. It is fascinating because it is all entrepreneurial. And it is people that go out every day and make something happen. And you know, it's not like me going into my office. I mean, rain or shine, I can go there. Sometimes these folks can't go out, and that means the work the next day they double up on.
It's dangerous work.
Oh, it
too.
is. It really is. I mean, anytime you're on the water, you know, because if something happens, you just don't have the opportunity to get back as quickly to get it fixed or do whatever.
Yep.
Nowhere to go. You've got to take care of yourself. That independence, I mean, I really applaud it. I mean, 100 million pounds. That's just staggering
I know,
to me.
it is a lot of lobster.
I can't even, you know, the national debt's beyond me, but that's just a tremendous amount of lobsters.
But you know, that's what he said. It's the perfect example. It's been regulated so that there's no big conglomerate that owns all of it. And because of that, the people who are invested, the families who've been doing this for years and generations, are good stewards of lobster, of their, you know, natural resource, and they're taking care of it because they know they need it there for generations to come.
And not being a native of Maine, it's just another one of those things that I appreciate about the great state of Maine, because that's all done locally. That's all done by people in Maine. It's not done from somebody away. Those folks that are in that business decided this is the best way to take care of it. This is the best way to preserve it as a heritage, and it's something that my sons and daughters can do.
It's the right thing to do, and they self-police themselves.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you've enjoyed today's edition of Inside Maine Tourism.
You've heard it all before. Come locate your business in our region. At Mid-Maine, we've got a different message. We say, come visit the Waterville region and let us show you a great place to live, work, and play. You'll find we offer a diversified economy, progressive business climate, and an outstanding lifestyle. But don't take our word for it. Let us show you what we offer. It's easy to arrange a visit. Just a quick stop at the Mid-Maine Chamber of Commerce website will get you started.
Some Maine to Boston commuters still don't know about the Amtrak Down Easter. Of course, it's easy and affordable, but once you step on, you'll discover something else. This. Quiet. Real quiet. And space. Lots of space. On the Down Easter, you get plenty of room to move, spread out, think with no interruptions. It's the best way to get to Boston. And with the price of gas, it's so obvious. I always take the train.